Welcome to Embracing New Life, where we explore the world of mental health, offer hope, and spark important conversations as we explore the intersections of mental health resources and Christianity and those who stand in the gap. Today, we're jumping back into a journey that we started last week based around the question that has intrigued humanity for centuries. What is a human? This two-part series has invited us to look deeply at what it means to be human, exploring the design, purpose, and potential God has instilled in us. While we have not fully exhausted the topic, we hope these episodes are encouraging us all to reflect on the human condition, God's design for us, and what it truly means to thrive. Here are a few quick takes from today's episode.
How do I pursue my wants? Now that's an area of choices.
Yeah.
And again, that indicates I have agency.
Yep.
What I do does make a difference.
Mm-hmm. God designing humans to work. So, we are designed to work, but we're also designed to take a pause and walk in the cool of the day with God.
Yes.
where we disconnect from that. I don't know if you'd call it primary, but that task that God has given us.
My need to know is not only to know others, but I need to know me as well. That's part of our design.
So you know what time it is. Grab that beverage of choice, get comfortable, go for a walk, or just drive as we listen to the second part of this two-part series on what it means to be human. How do we balance, that God-given desire to connect with others through the needs that we have versus our wants?
Mm-hmm. Wants and needs, that's a really intriguing one. One of the ways I would explore that is needs have a consequence when they're not met. Now, I very often want the newest technology. That's just something that has been all my life, all the way back to the advent of the cassette recorder. But I can cope very well with the technology I have in most cases. And so I can acknowledge, I want it. Oh, that'd be great to have it. But I'm still okay.
Yeah.
But the need to be loved or to love another, to act loving towards other. If I am not active in loving, there are very specific consequences. I will become likely more anxious, more dysphoric. I likely will become more self-centered. The person who's drowning, the only thing that they're focused on is getting air.
Yeah.
And they'll push under the person that comes out to rescue. When our deep needs aren't met, there are consequences.
Yeah. Whereas
our wants, we can adapt readily with not having wants met.
Sure. I like what you said there, where when needs aren't met, there is a consequence.
Yes.
That's a good way to think of the difference between a need and a want, and how to understand if one is one of those or the other.
And there's nothing wrong with having wants.
Sure.
That's just an expression of our individuality, the unique person that we are. How do I pursue my wants? Now, that's an area of choices.
Yeah.
And again, that indicates I have agency.
Yep.
What I do does make a difference.
Mm-hmm. And do you think as people start to pursue their wants above and beyond maybe even their needs, that's when they start to become even more self-centered and focused on self, and then create in the wake of their relationships, disaster and lots of issues?
We see many people who, even though they're surrounded by people, are very lonely and isolated. They don't have the experience of knowing anyone very deeply or being known by anybody. Well, that doesn't go away. The need doesn't go away just because it's not being met.
Yeah.
So we humans, we'll try to find comfort, or we'll try to find relief in other ways. And often that's pursuing our wants. And I'll talk with couples often, but also with individuals, about when our needs for intimacy, knowing and being known, are not met, we often will substitute intensity.
Yeah.
And the intensity can be manifested in the pursuit of a want.
Sure.
And I feel alive. I feel energy. I'm jacked up, but it doesn't meet the need.
Yeah.
It doesn't meet the need.
Does it feel to the individual who is pursuing intensity over intimacy as the need is being met, just short-lived?
Yes, in the short-lived part, I think is essential there because they need to keep the intensity up.
Sure.
So we know some people will say, "Oh, they're so dramatic; they're always involved in a drama." Well, many relationships are that way. That I know I need something in this relationship, and as long as there's all this tension or strife or activity between us, it feels like we're connected.
Yeah.
As soon as that intensity diminishes, now it's intriguing, that intensity diminishes, it's unrewarding. They go try to repeat the pattern.
Yeah.
I find it interesting. We're told, be still and know that I am God. That form of knowing and being known, that form of intimacy, talks about being still, not being intense.
Yeah.
And so a question that we could ask when someone is seeing, are my needs being met? How do I deal with quiet?
Sure.
Do I ever have quiet? Many never have quiet.
Yeah.
And with all our electronic options, it's easy to fill every space with sound and image.
For sure.
And other sensations.
Yeah. Something that keeps the system kind of amped up and going.
Keeps our neurological system in that constant high level of arousal, which seems like, but is unsatisfying.
For sure. Now, if someone, listening is, thinks of their life and the relationships that they have, and they think to themselves, wow, I think I might be substituting intensity for intimacy. What are some steps that maybe they can, proactively take to start to correct that phenomenon?
Yeah, so one of the things we'd explore with them is experiencing quiet, experiencing being in the now. The Gospels call us to be present focused, not to be worried about tomorrow, not to be living in the past or the future, but to live in the now. Along those lines, in the now, non-judgmentally recognizing what I'm experiencing, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. And one could say, well, yes, but some of the things I think aren't good. Well, when I non-judgmentally recognize them, I can then make choices. Well, what do I want to do with this?
Agency.
I have agency. What I do makes a difference. But I need to slow down and connect with me, because my need to know is not only to know others, but I need to know me as well. That's part of our design.
Yeah. I think the slowing down is a key factor because of the reality of how quickly we get so conditioned to habitual behavior or responses that if we can train ourselves just to pause for a moment and really take in and think about what am I doing here, it makes a huge impact just in the ways that we process information or respond in a given scenario.
It really does. We are designed to have quiet. And many of us find quiet boring.
Yeah.
We've become habituated, or it's become a habit to be so stimulated.
Yeah.
But that's not how our body is designed to function.
Not at all, yeah. I find it interesting. I was just talking to a guy recently about this idea that, in Genesis at the beginning with the creation account, you have God designing humans to work. So, we are designed to work, but we're also designed to take a pause and walk in the cool of the day with God.
Yes.
where we disconnect from that. I don't know if you'd call it primary, but that task that God has given us to engage in basically a self-care phenomenon of enjoying the company or the relationship of the God who has created us, or in the case of being here on earth and talking about relationships like we are now, having relationships the way that God's designed it.
Yes, because in that narrative, this is before the fall.
Yeah.
And they're both good.
For sure.
so many of us are identifying one or the other. Some work provides an identity, work provides a purpose. For others, leisure provides their identity,
Yeah.
being off duty. But in the Genesis story, the wholeness is good,
Hmm.
not just one or the other.
And that's part of the design, right?
That's the design.
That's how we're made to function,
Right,
and that's how we thrive well.
right.
Yeah.
So when we ask that question, well, what is a person? A person made in the image of God, intentional, on purpose, with specific characteristics that we can identify. And that's one of the things that fascinates me about a person is that self-awareness that we can develop.
Mm.
And now none of us have complete self-awareness,
Sure.
but we grow in it. And that is part of our design, to have that self-awareness.
Most definitely. Now, as we circle back around to, being known and knowing, loving and being loved, and then the safety that we find in relationships when we have those things. I've heard you say before, and so I think it'd be good for you to explain your perspective on this, where there are usually two variables that any person in a relationship control that can kind of determine the quality and depth of a relationship, and can be a good marker for individuals as they're trying to understand, is this a healthy relationship? Is it not a healthy relationship? How much should I give to this relationship, or how much should I hold back, or not hold back, but just be cautious? And those two variables that I've heard you say are accessibility and vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And both individuals in a relationship have the capacity to go deeper with those variables. But those are two markers that are you can kind of.
Yeah, I have found that really helpful to be aware of those factors. Many times people will say, because of the relationship, I should get love here, I should be known here. That's not true for anyone all the time, let alone for some, it's never true.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of one person who came from a very, very painful background, and she was sharing with me, but she's my mother. Of course, she loves me, and this is in light of a letter that her mother had given her saying, "I never did love you. I don't love you. Please leave me alone."
Mm.
Hard letter to get from your mom.
For sure.
But the reality is, while most moms love their children, not all do.
Yeah.
How do we sort through this? So one variable is that in order to connect with another person, there must be some accessibility, some availability. Right now, I'm not able to connect with my wife because she's in a different building that I'm at, somewhere else, some miles from here.
Yeah.
So that's not a problem in our relationship. It's not available right now.
Yeah.
But just recently, we were both sitting together in our family room, and we were both reading, and we're available to each other. We're accessible right there, but we were in our own worlds reading.
Sure.
And while it was very pleasant and very comfortable, we weren't getting to know each other more deeply in that moment. We weren't sharing loving acts in that moment. It was just comforting to be together. And that's good also. So to really connect with the person, are they available? But then second, are they vulnerable? Meaning, will they receive what I offer without judgment? Will they reveal themselves to me, what it's like to be them?
Yeah.
We can be in the same room and not vulnerable for many reasons. One, we're doing something else, reading. Or one of us is defended, or we're both guarded.
Yeah.
Or something is troubling us that we're so consumed with that we don't have the bandwidth to be open to the other in that moment. Whatever, many, many reasons. And that highlights how precious it is when we do have those times with another human.
For sure.
When we're available and vulnerable simultaneously. But we also can be intentional about that.
For sure.
And that, back to agency again.
Yeah.
What we do makes a difference.
Yeah.
We can intentionally choose, I want to set aside other things. I want to hear you. I want to set aside other things to be with you. And I'd like to share with you what it's like to be me right now. We can do that intentionally.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good reminder. I was listening to probably NPR, some podcast, not too long ago, and they were talking about the statistic that for once you get past your 20s, every decade that you go, you lose a significant friend.
Mm.
And they said there's a number of different reasons for that. Relocation because of job, or potentially death, or
Yeah.
for some other
Yes.
reason. So how, as you get older in life, how do you intentionally invest in relationships that bring accessibility and vulnerability so that we can be known and loved and thrive in a way that is helpful and healthy in this world?
Well, I would recommend that we do it intentionally. I know a lot of people just show up at events, and if you're an extrovert, that might work to some degree for you, but just sharing activities is only the start. That
Sure.
doesn't lead to really our needs being met.
Yeah.
To choose to invest in relating with others,
Hmm.
invite them over, share with them, ask them questions. Curiosity is such an important factor here. Being curious about what it's like to be the other person
Hmm.
is a safe, open door typically that facilitates some connecting with each other.
Yeah.
Um, while it's important to share activities, relating to meet our needs is much more than just sharing activities.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So just intentionally pursuing people in a curious way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to somebody who's like, I feel like I have relationships. I do feel like they're accessible and vulnerable, but I feel like I'm the one that's always asking to do stuff. Would you say keep doing it, or is there an imbalance there that needs to potentially be looked at?
Well, that's intriguing. I'm thinking back to some research that's done some time ago along those lines, and what they found is that quite often both parties feel like it's out of balance. That we tend to be more focused on when we take the risk and less recognizing when the other takes the
Sure.
risk.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility.
Most
Now,
definitely.
there are certainly some relationships where one does initiate far more than another.
Sure.
And we can decide, and that's what's wonderful about having agency.
Yeah.
We can decide how much we want to invest in that relationship. I would strongly encourage to not be dichotomous, all or nothing.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut them off.
Sure.
But if I want to be in relationships that have a more balanced initiating, I'm going to need to find some space to build those relationships. So I probably will do less with the ones that I don't find as rewarding.
Sure.
Another factor that sometimes is helpful is talk about it.
Yeah.
We always do what I want to do, and I'm curious to know, what would you like to do?
Yeah. That's a great idea.
How about we intentionally next time we get together, why don't you put it together and I'm really wanting to do what you'd like to do.
Yep. Yep. That's good. It brings me back to just recently the research that was released, a pretty longitudinal study that was done on, what contributes to longevity in life, or what's the greatest factor that we can measure that contributes to longevity in life. And especially because of our topic today of, what are humans? How do we thrive? What's it like to be known and loved, and to love and know, and safety? The research study found that the quality of our relationships is the greatest indicator, at least from what they could tell from the study, the greatest indicator of longevity in life. And it's just a powerful reminder and example of just how important, and it's just part of the way we're designed, how important it is to connect well with others, and how it behooves us to take the agency that we have and intentionally make the choice to do so.
Absolutely. Center for Disease Control has recognized that loneliness is a very significant contributor to disease. When we live incongruent with how we're designed, it has real significant consequences, even on our bodies.
Yeah. There's a holistic impact that it has in our life, not just from a psychological or cognitive functioning factor, but also a physical.
Very much so.
That's amazing, and it's just another indication that of the design that God has designed us with. In that, man, we just need people as much as we like to think sometimes that we don't. In order to thrive in this world, in order to be healthy as healthy as we can in a world that's not the way it was designed to be, we just need others as support and help.
That's really true for all of us, even those who might have features where it looks like they're loners. They may need less contact, but their needs to love and be loved, know and be known are still present.
Yeah.
And it's really important. Even the person who's seemingly wanting to be alone all the time, they still have the same needs. They just experience them in a bit different way than many others would.
Yeah, and that's a great reminder not to, in a sense, project what we need onto what other people need, because our needs for human connection, to know and be known, to love and be loved, is a spectrum, and there's a lot of variance along that.
Yes, there is. And when I'm with a person, I may not know them at all, but I do know that they need to be understood and to understand others, that they need to be loved and to love as well.
Yeah.
Knowing that creates a sense of safety. It's not just me that has these needs.
Sure.
Or it's not just many of us, all of us. And even the person that may seem threatening, they have the same needs. So I can understand their threatening acts, why I might want to have a little more distance from them.
Sure.
But that's about them trying to live their life rather than there's something either wrong with me or there's something I need to do to fix them.
Yeah.
Neither one of those are evidenced by how they're living.
Yeah. Great reminder. And I know that there are probably hours and hours that we could talk about a number of different topics that we discussed today. But this was a good start to understanding, how do we understand humans? What are they? How does God design them? And some of the fundamentals that exist with thriving and living well in this world.
No, I look forward to these future explorations of these kind of topics.
Yeah, there's a lot to dive into.
There's a lot.
That's for sure.
Humans are never boring.
That is true.
Embracing New Life is a production of New Life Resources, a Christian counseling clinic in southeast Wisconsin, whose aim and goal since 1976 has been to provide high-quality professional counseling, psychological, and consulting services from within a Christian framework.